Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 47 of the CornerBlue. We've been gone for a while, but we're back. And Andres, how are you doing?
Good, man. Recovered from the week that was when La Selecta was here in the Bay. Had tons of fun doing coverages at the Quakes facility, then at Oakland Roots. And then at the game, obviously the score was a little messy, but it was a great experience finally having La Selecta back in the Bay. It exceeded expectations and from a fan sense of, being able to be back at the stadium, see La Sur play, because it's been, since last year, I covered them in LA, so I've been a little bit, but it was just nice to know it was just in the backyard. Didn't have to book any flights, no hotels, easy on the pocket, and just staying local and covering La Selecta was pretty much a dream. So I had a lot of fun, and it was at one of the practices at the Oakland Roots facility that I recognized Javier Mariona chilling, just watching the training, because he was currently injured at that time. So I just walked up to him and was like, "Hey, Javier, would you be down to come on the podcast one of these days?" And he was super down to come on and chat with us. And so that's who we're going to chat with today. We were able to sit down with Javi Mariona, talk to him a little bit about his family, the heritage that exists with the Selecta, his recent call up for the U20s, what that experience has been for him. So it was an interesting chat, and we want to thank him and shout him out for taking the time and hanging out with us for a little bit. So we're going to get into that really quick. I don't know if you're a Dubs fan. I've been watching the game, but this is the only time that we can make it work for everybody. So if you're a Dubs fan, are you a Dubs fan, by the way?
Or I'm not too big. No, I'm not too big on basketball. I'm not the biggest guy following through with all of that, to be honest with you. Yeah.
It's all good. All right. So then no wonder right now could work for you.
Yeah. Okay, let's go Dubs. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, let's do
it. All right. Well, again, thank you for taking the time and chatting with us. I think right now has been a lot of excitement in terms of news around the U20s. That's where we've gotten to know you first, is through your appearances through the U20s, and then hearing the good news that you were signed to Oakland Roots. So congrats on the contract. But more than anything, we just want to get to know you as fans, right? You're on the up and coming. You've been a part of the exciting U20s team that has been getting a lot of hype, a lot of positive attention. But first, who are you? Who is Javi Mariona? Can you break down a little bit of who you are to fans that are barely getting to know you and starting to follow your career?
What's up, guys? I want to say thank you to Andres and Hugo. Thank you guys so much for having me, and to break down who I am. Javi Mariona, Javier Mariona, whatever you want to break me down as. I'm a 17-year-old from Los Altos, California, and I currently play for the Oakland Roots in the USL Championship, second division for the bracket of the U.S. Professional Federation. And I'm playing for the U20 El Salvador national team. So, that's a little bit about me.
And so how is this period in your career? Are you feeling excited with just everything on the horizon, the competition, obviously for the Roots still going on? And then how are you feeling in terms of the U20s? I know you missed out on the last couple of tourneys due to injury, but how has that process been for you? Just the call up, going to El Salvador and playing, what has that been like for you?
Man, everything's just fueling me up. I'm getting ready to give more and more, not just for the national team, but for my club team as well, Oakland Roots. I'm ready to do so much, and without a doubt, missing out on the chance to go to Belize and Dallas due to injury, it was really crappy. I took it in a harsh way, and I knew that it's a setback, but I always like to say setbacks are a huge reason to comebacks, without a doubt. So I'm ready. I'm prepared. I'm super fueled up. I'm ready to give it my all when I get the chance to hopefully get back and go with the boys down there, back to Salvador.
Javi, first of all, thank you for being here with us. And I was around in the last friendly match, and I saw you there, but I couldn't go there and greet you. But I've been following you for many years. I don't know if you know, but now I'm the official scout of El Salvador. But prior to that, I basically scouted just as a thing that I do for 10 years. I've been doing
Super
it
fan.
for 11 years. So
many articles about you, I see. So many.
I started following you since you were, I don't know, 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
Around 7, and reading about your, I mean, not only the background that you have from grandfather as a professional athlete, historic in El Salvador, but also your mom, right? She also played professional tennis, right, in the Philippines. And I remember that, there were talks about the Philippines also being after you when you were very young.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I could never really get a hold of you. I tried and I could never talk to you. But, when Hugo came around and he knew you because, you are from the same part of town, basically, or close enough.
Yes.
But yes, nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. How's that injury going, by the way? Are you fully recovered?
Yes, I'm fully recovered. So to break it down for you guys and a quick summary of that injury, I was trying to do some solo training by myself off the pitch, trying to put as much work as I can. And I took a little bit of an incorrect step while doing some sprints, trying to get my stamina back up and full range of motion, my sprint. And I didn't think too much of it. My knee got nicked. Next morning I wake up and my knee is super inflamed, swollen, humongous size of my head. And I quite literally lost all my mobility in my knee. I quickly thought, I was like, okay, this is nuts. This is not a big issue at all. My initial thought was, hey, this is just like a stiff neck. I slept in the incorrect way. It's going to go away in 2-3 hours. And I mean, 8 hours went by and I'd never had a knee injury before. So I immediately texted the trainers at Oakland Roots. That was our day off. And I said, hey, this is worrying. This is serious. And as soon as that, they were like, okay, let's get you the MRI, X-ray. Super thankful they were able to, hook me up with all that in the amount of time they were, in a day or two, I believe it was. And lucky enough, it was just some bone bruises and a plica extra cartilage tissue in the knee that can flare up when over usage of the knee. So I'm glad it wasn't anything too serious. But the thing was, you can't do anything with all the swelling in the knee. You just have to wait for the body to heal it up and get rid of all of that. So it was just me playing the waiting game, quite literally. But all the swelling is gone. My knee's feeling great. No abnormalities, no imbalance between the both knees. And yeah, good to go.
That's good to hear, man.
Yeah.
Did you get minutes over the weekend, or did you travel with the team this past fixture?
I did not. I'm still I was able to play in a couple of in-training scrimmages, trying to get my fitness back up. But that's the issue right now. It was just those 4 weeks of me doing upper body in the gym to keep myself somewhat fit. But, that's nothing compared to the 90 games I'm going to have to run with these guys. So, I wasn't rostered. Yes.
Nice. Well, congrats on the recovery, and wishing you best of luck in terms of getting back in shape. Do you think that you'll be back in time for June in terms of the U20s if that call up comes up?
Yes, 100%. I think I'll be 120% ready to go. And, exactly what I was saying. I'm already fueled up, emotionally, physically, and everything like that. I'm ready to give it my all. So 100%, yes.
And would you mind breaking down a little bit of what the experience was of that, the connection with the Salvadoran Federation or the coaching staff getting reached out to, what that process was for you in terms of, whether accepting the call up or not? Was there like a moment where you're doing pros and cons, just the whole experience, how your family reacted to it, your abuelito, how he reacted to it?
Yeah.
If you don't mind breaking that down for us.
Yeah, no, it traces back to, I want to even say prior to summer 2021, we're maybe in May and April of 2021. And this was when COVID was starting to calm down a little bit, starting to become a little bit more mellow. And I had, prior to really truly seeing that list come out, I had heard things that, Profe Jerson will be the new, U20 coach and everything like that. And I heard many rumors saying, hey, Javier Mariona is a possibility for the, I believe it was U18s at the time, And, I knew that the Salvador national team was a huge option for me, especially with my, my grandpa's last name. And that's something that I was 100% all go for. I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is something that I want to take full advantage of if the opportunity comes up for me. And, it ended up not happening any call-ups in that summer of 2021. Then came December of 2021, right before the new year of 2022. And that's when they had a little bit of just US Salvadorian players coming to meet up in LA. We had that little thing, a little training center, a 2-day camp that they had specific invite players only. And Profe Jerris and Profe Hugo, all of them were there. And oh my gosh, and the emotions to finally be there was amazing. Get to meet everyone. And, I think I was a little bit more comfortable in that situation. Why? Because it was a lot of American Salvadorians, There was no guys, no locals, no guys from El Salvador. So that helped me a little bit. And Profe Hugo asked me to train one day with the senior. That really gave me a boost. That made me feel like, this is really what I want. This is the bright side to really committing and saying, this is what I'm going for. So that came around. And finally, when I finally got to go to El Salvador for those 2 national team games against Guatemala, I mean, oh my gosh, it's impossible to put it into words, quite literally. Just what an amazing experience. I had the best time ever. And if you want to go deeper in depth, I'd love to tell you about it. Yeah.
That's what this is all about, is we want to see it from your perspective of, was it your first time in El Salvador? How many times have you gone prior? And what was that whole experience? If you had any moments with your grandpa before the matches, if you gave any pointers, just all your impressions, because that's been the cool thing about the show is we try and get those anecdotes, the perspective of players, whether they're born in El Salvador, they're born abroad, and what it was like for those born abroad reconnecting with the country or connecting for the first time, literally showing up and just seeing, experiencing the country, in the flesh. So yeah, if you want, totally to describe that, like some of the things that were the biggest impression on you getting there, or, the people, stuff like that.
So So prior to actually leaving for El Salvador, I was healing up from a midfoot sprain on my left foot. So I wasn't even 110% prior to getting the call up and everything like that. And when my Oakland Roots club had received the message saying, hey, Javier Mariona is receiving a U20 for the call up for the national team of El Salvador, I thought to myself, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so ready for this. I'm ready to give it my all. But then I have people like my dad, the trainers at Oakland Roots, saying, hey, this kid is just coming back from an injury. Is it really worth to send him in? What happens if he doesn't perform well? What happens if he, gets hurt even more? There's more pros to cons in that, and there's more cons to pros in that situation. And I said, I kept telling myself, like, let's do it. Let's take this risk. This doesn't come around all the time. And so we committed. I ended up going. If you've heard of a fellow teammate of mine on the U20 national team, Alejandro Cano, one of the center backs who plays for Quakes too, he flew out from San Francisco with me, and he had been to El Salvador already, I believe, 3 times before this call up. And I remember in the airport, we had flown from San Francisco all the way to Houston. In the airport, I was just nicking him. Hey, what's it like in El Salvador? How are the guys there? How do they treat you and everything like that? I was nervous. I was anxious. I was trying to get as much as I can out of him to prepare myself for what El Salvador is going to be like. Because, I was nervous. I'm a boy arriving to a new country with a new group of guys, and I have to battle for a spot, yet also uplift the team to be the best team they possibly can. That's the 2 roles that I'm being given the chance to do while I'm there. So, I was there nicking him. Lucky enough, we were to meet Robinson Aguirre, which you guys might know. We just called up to the senior national team. We got to meet him in the Houston airport as well before we head over to Salvador. It got me a little bit more comfortable as well, knowing that, okay, this is another guy who's never been to El Salvador before, and he's ready to meet all these new guys. So I'm not the only one in this situation, And arriving there, everyone was super warm-hearted. And exactly what you said, being abroad, you don't know what it's going to be like. You don't know how these guys are going to treat you. You don't know if they're going to appreciate you coming from the United States, and whether they're not going to be like, oh, these guys aren't true Salvadorian blood. They're not going to respect you the same that they respect the locals. But I mean, I'm treated with love. All these guys are super caring. They're true teammates. They're true brothers. That's within 2 weeks I got to spend there with them. And I really noticed that. So, you know, super thankful, super grateful for the opportunity. And those guys, man, those are true teammates.
You're touching on so many points that, that you've answered a lot of the questions that I think we're going to have. And I'm just very excited to hear and see your excitement because like you said, one of the ongoing conversations or the most common social media conversation is about, those guys who come from the States or who are born in other countries. They don't feel the colors, they're just there because they didn't have any other opportunities, with another team. And I mean, it could be the case for some, but I think it's very difficult to understand for a local or a person who was born in El Salvador, grew up their entire life there. It's hard for them to really understand how someone born in the States to Salvadorian parents or grandparents and a parent from another country, what goes on inside of us. I mean, I was born in El Salvador, but came to the US when I was young. But it's interesting to hear that you felt that connection. It seems like you were nervous, but it was like more excitement about what you were, the journey that you were about to embark. And I mean, you already told us you felt welcomed, and you had those fears. I think you're one of the first players, even though you're very young, who have been able to articulate your emotions, and you were like excited, and at the same time you were nervous about, how are these guys going to treat me? Are they going to be mad that I come here and I'm taking one of their spots, which is another argument. But I always said, these guys are here to compete. They want to compete just like the local ones, and it just creates a healthy competition. And I mean, I don't even know if I have a question to add, but it's just I think it's good to educate a lot of people, English speakers. I wish, maybe we have to translate this interview into Spanish.
Put subtitles at some point.
Yeah, because you're putting into words the emotions that a lot of players feel, and some are not able to say it. And you've been very clear about the excitement, and I don't even need to ask you, hey, how proud do you feel about the colors? It's like I don't need to even go there because you made it crystal clear. Yeah. So, I mean, Andres, I don't know if you have anything to ask.
Well, one thing that we've talked about with other players that have had more than just two nationalities. For example, we've had Carla Portillo, who's Canadian, Filipina, and Salvadoran. We had Pablo Puñed, who is Nicaraguan, Salvadoran, and from the States. And one thing I remember Pablo saying was, if it were up to him, he would love to play for all three countries that he were eligible for, it's hard to just put yourself in one box and then just have it be that. How has it been for you? I mean, I assume you grew up in the Bay Area. There's a huge Salvadoran community. There's a huge Filipino community. What was it like in the sense culturally of basically having parents from both cultures? Did you feel like there's a huge difference between them? Do you feel like they mesh a lot? And then in terms of representing El Salvador, what's the feedback been from both sides of the family? Has one side been like, oh, you should have played for Philippines or the US, and then one side's like, selecta, well.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, they've always been super accepting. I want to put it out there that Salvadorian and Filipinos are like twins. They're the same. I mean, they're literally like that. Pupusas and the food sinigang are like, they're the exact opposite, but they will make you feel the exact same way. They're going to hit, they're going to bust, they're going to smack the same way. You know what I'm saying? When they're in your stomach, it doesn't matter. So without a doubt, all my family members from both sides have always been super supportive. Since day one, they've known that this is my dream to play professional soccer. And, they're super happy to know that I'm representing a country. And now that's even El Salvador. I mean, oh my gosh, everyone's blown up. They're so happy. I get messages all the time saying how proud they are of me. And, you know, in my head, I say, thank you so much, but I still have a lot more to give. Keep a tag, because I want to do more. You know, I'm very thankful, very grateful. And I've never felt that there was an issue between the two cultures, Filipino and Salvadorian. Like I said, they've always been so supportive. They've always been, you know, here for me. And they've always been saying, you know, follow your dreams, you know, never give up. And we'll always, you know, continue to back you up with your path. So without a doubt.
And in terms of your Bay Area roots, really quick, have you had previous contact with anybody in the coaching staff before they were, you know, affiliated with the federation, or how has that connection been like?
So I want to make a point, actually. Growing up, one of my first ever soccer clubs was actually, I want to say it was actually my first ever soccer club. It was MVLA Soccer Club. It's a local little soccer club here in Los Altos, Mountain View, California. And Gerson Perez, Profe Gerson, was once a coach there. And I think, you know, there were a couple times where he had, you know, overtook one of the trainings that I had with a coach at the time. His name was, I believe, Coach Chris, and he was there. So I believe I had remembered him already. And, you know, fast forward 5 years, I'm already DA Development Academy. That's when US was really big on that before that disbanded. I was playing at Dianza Force, a big DA club, and I needed to make a move. Things weren't really working out the best at the time. And, you know, Gerson I had a connection with Profe Gerson, and he was like, hey, you know, we have SVSA, Silicon Valley Soccer Academy. We're over here, still in Silicon Valley, very local for you. We're a DA club, and we're playing at the highest level possible for a youth player in the US, you know? And as soon as I joined that club, I was there for 3 years. I was always there with Jerison, Hugo, you know, many other coaches too. They've always there supported me, not directly my coaches sometimes, but I'd always been around them. They'd always been watching me and my team. So I've always been around them, always been very thankful for everything they've done. Yeah.
And I bet that must have helped, especially with the transition, you know, making that big leap. But at least there's a familiar face on the other side once you land in El Salvador, right? Yeah.
So Alejandro Cano was pretty much the only guy I knew personally when I was driving in El Salvador. And, you know, that's scary. You know, you're about to be on a team with 25 new guys, and half of them only speak Spanish. And, you know, it was something new to me, something I was, you know, ready to take on, but it was something, like I said, I was anxious and nervous. But second I stepped through those doors, I know a lot of people don't know what happened behind these closed doors in the federation, but I can tell you, man, what a blast. On and off the field, an amazing time I had. You're right. You guys have heard me say, man, I'm super thankful for the opportunity I was given.
Did you get any downtime those 2 weeks to kind of just take it all in, or do you feel like it was just light speed, just boom, 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 all these things happening to you at once?
I mean, light speed, but in the best way possible, man. I mean, light speed, we get on the dance floor, we're dancing together, that type of light speed, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I mean, everything. We were always together as a team. We were always having a good time, having laughs. As soon as we step on the field, we're serious. We know exactly what he was saying. It's a good competition on the field where we know that we're all fighting for a spot. Yet there's also that contrast where we know we're trying to make one another a better player so we can mold together a team. We all know that, you know? So that was definitely something I noticed.
I wanted to step back a little bit, and I mean, it's obvious, and everybody knows, you know, that your grandpa, Salvador Mariona, is one of the historic players that qualified to the first World Cup for El Salvador in 1970, and your name obviously it carries a weight in El Salvador. Growing up for you, when did you realize, you know, that you were a Mariona, the history with your father, and when did you realize? Because I'm assuming that has been a big influence for your desire to be a professional footballer. How old were you, if you remember? When was that time that you were like, man, my grandpa play a World Cup for El Salvador,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody, loves him down there, and I want to follow his path. Do you remember
His
when
footsteps.
that happened?
Yeah, so man, I get goosebumps just thinking about how I made it to the World Cup too. It's incredible. But I think when it really kickstarted my brain, that I understood that what my grandpa has done, what this guy has achieved, was probably even 2010. So how old was I at the time? 6 years old, 7 years old. Why I say that is because seeing that 2010 World Cup in South Africa, that was the first time I think I really understood that this sport is so beautiful. Ever since I had started walking, I'd always been kicking the ball, love being outside, passing with my dad or something at, 4 or 5 years old. That was my activity. But when that World Cup came around, that's when I realized that my heart really lays in the sport. This is what I love. For example, that song Waka Waka, I mean, I even play that before pre-games, that's a song to go to sometimes. And then, I put 2 and 2 together and I say, wow, my last name has already participated in the most prestige competition in the history of mankind. It's as simple as that. And, I don't want to say ever since then, because even since I started kicking the ball, I knew that, man, I mean, being in the World Cup is any man's dream. That's what I want to achieve one day. And I'm so thankful that my grandpa was able to, do it. And I hope I can carry on that legacy and achieve that one day. It's as simple as that. So yeah, super, super sick. I mean, man, it's crazy to think about sometimes. It doesn't even seem realistic. I mean, yeah, super crazy.
16 team World Cup. They made it. First
a roster of
America.
less than 30 guys, Incredible.
And have you been able to talk about those experiences directly with him, or has it been mostly through your pops, or how have you learned about what that experience was like for your family back then?
Yeah. So one of the main experiences that stuck out to me that we were talking about recently when I was back in Salvador, on my day off, and I got to see him and my grandma a little bit. He was telling me about how when he got to play against Mexico in the stadium, I mean, oh my gosh, he said the whole stadium was just full of Mexicans and stuff like that. They're all throwing water bottles at him. They want to take his head off, you know what I mean? But hearing that gives me even more fuel in a way. I just take it as like, man, I want to be in the same situation as that. That's what I want to do in my future. That's what I want to be doing with the same last name on my back. It's as simple as that. And it's such a sick and cool experience. And he said, I'd never trade any moment in my life for the ring that I have that proves that I went to the World Cup, And yeah, I mean, the way he talks about it, it was like it was yesterday, as simple as that. Every little detail, literally how long the grass was, he'll remember,
That's amazing. Yeah, I think as a Salvadoran born here, there's nothing like being able to connect with the country through the sport in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like my World Cup that was like my first one was 94. And I remember that was like the first one I was aware of and whatnot. They didn't take me to it, which is kind of messed up, but I was still aware of it. But growing up, one thing that's helped me like basically fall in love with the Salvadoran team is just hearing the stories of my grandfather, like ditching med school and taking a drive to Guatemala to watch the Central American games there. Yeah. Stuff like that. He's in the back of a pickup truck, like, let's go with his buddies. And then just all the stories, the 82 team, Mágico, El Pájaro. And I think that's just one way of just reconnecting with your culture, even if it's just do something just like sports. It's just something that's so special, especially when you can share that with previous generations. And man, I can only imagine what it'd be like hearing stories like that. Like I was reading an article recently on the experience of playing Mexico in the 70 World Cup where, the Mexicans stole the ball on the sideline. The ref didn't call it.
Yeah. He told me the exact same thing.
Yeah,
oh my gosh. He's like, it's the biggest scam ever. These refs, they know that they were in Mexico. They knew if they ended up making the call, 80,000 fans would take off their head or something like that. Exactly what you're saying. This exactly what you said. He said to me, he's like, the ref, they know they didn't call it. As soon as they blew the whistle for halftime, we all ran to the refs. We want to take their head off, but we knew it was us 11 on the field versus 80,000 people in the stadium. So we weren't going to get it. and we were heated. We had lost our heads after that. And I mean, it's super, super funny. And exactly what you put into your words, he said the exact same thing in Spanish, man. Super
That's
funny.
crazy.
Yeah.
No, man. Do you feel an extra burden or weight or target by the history? Like you got something to prove, or is it just more motivation of, I want to reach that level, or I want to be able to bring back that pride that, that my grandfather brought the family?
More motivation, not too much of a burden. Without a doubt, I do feel the weight. I do feel that, sometimes maybe family members and people are like, you got to give what he gave. And without a doubt, I do want to give what he gave, but it's more just internally coming from me, the motivation where I feel I just want to do it. I'm not hearing what these people are. I know they may be saying, oh, they want me to do it. But before that, coming from me internally, I know that this is what I want to give. This is what I want to achieve. Seeing that he can do it, I say, why not? Why can't I do it? Without a doubt, it's just truly my dream. So not too much of a burden, more of motivation, telling myself like, yeah, let's do it. I'm even more fueled up to do that even more, Yeah.
Nice. And does your grandpa still have any of his old gear from back in the day when he was playing?
Not too much of old gear though, but at the house, when I visited the house, my first time visiting the house, I mean, he had the whole wall full of just newspapers and everything, articles talking about the first time of them arriving, many interviews he's done on it. And I mean, truly, he could talk about it. Maybe in the future we hop back on here with him and he'll talk about it for hours, all the stories he knows. And I've heard too many to talk about right now, of course. So
for sure. Cool.
Javier, how long did it take you, from that? Because I think we've all done things in our lives, not necessarily in sports, but where we're about to have a new experience, meet new people, or be in a group where we don't know anyone, or go to a different country. How long did it take you from, you were nervous, you were anxious, obviously, at the airport, flying there, landing, and then finally meeting your teammates? How long did it take you to feel comfortable and feel that you were part of the group, that they treated you equally as everyone else and not any different because you were coming from a different country?
If I told you day one, I'd be lying. So, I think when it really struck me, when it really hit me, that we're all I want to put it, we're all blue and white behind those Federation closed doors. It's as simple as that. We're all blue and white, every single one of us. And that's just simply the truth. When it hit me that we're that, I'd say it was probably after the third day. Third day, why? I remember we had gathered in one of our teammates' rooms, everyone. We had a speaker, it was getting late after dinner. I remember we knew that we had a little lighter training session the next morning. Nothing too late. We can't say I'm too late. We trained the next morning, but we turned on the speakers and everyone was dancing, kept making circles. We were dancing for 45 minutes, an hour and a half, just laughing, enjoying. And I think that was one of the things that told me, okay, on the field, we're together, we're supportive. We help pick each other up. But off the field, it proved to me that, man, these guys truly love to and appreciate one another's time. And they're all here when they could be in the room on their phones doing their own thing, schoolwork, for example, or just on social media. But they're all in here taking their time and having a good laugh with another and truly, truly team bonding to the max. And that's when it hit me. I'm like, this feeling is not something that you'd have with a regular group of guys in 3 days that you've never met before in your life. Especially from a different country, especially half of them only speaking, something that's not your first native language. And that's when it really stuck with me. And I said, man, this is where I belong right now. This is where I want to be. And this is what I want to keep going through with.
No, that's exciting to hear. And I can only imagine, what an experience like that must have been like, because one thing, about Salvadoran culture is despite all the hardship that our people have gone through, but there's a warmth to us, there's that sociability to us, of, people being drawn together to spend time collectively, rather, like you said, isolated, especially nowadays with the newer generations, the tendency is to disconnect. So that's awesome to hear that there was that team. But whose idea was it? Was it like spontaneous? or was it like the coaching staff was like, oh, you guys need to hang out 5 minutes before bedtime? How did that whole situation come up?
Nothing to do with the training staff. Truly, it was all the teammates. It was, I think it was guys just hearing the speaker, blasting the bachata. They can, let's get in the room. Let's make something happen. As simple as that. If I hopefully get to score in the future with the national team again, I'll pop some dance moves. I want to say this real quick, actually. Before I had scored my first, international goal in my debut against Guatemala and Cusca, I told all the guys that night, I said, hey, if I score on my debut, I promise you guys I'll do a dance. I promise you guys. But I mean, hey, after I scored that goal, you guys have seen my reaction. All my emotions spilled. I was super anxious. Everything anxious in my body just spilled out. And I was like, I just forgot about it. I forgot about it. So hopefully I'm a little bit more calm next goal. All right. And I finally hit that dance for you guys.
Sounds good.
But yeah, nobody really engaged. Nobody really started that off. It was just a couple of guys, and more guys started adding up until everyone in the squad was literally in the room, dancing it out on the dance floor.
And just to close out, like Hugo mentioned previously, one of the topics that keeps popping up, it's repetitive, it's somewhat boring, but I need to bring it up. In your case that you have 3 nationalities, do you feel like people are kind of like mad dogging you guys or judging the players born abroad too quick? Is it something that affects you guys? Do you think it might affect other players or future players from joining up? Or how do you manage some of that negativity? Because it doesn't make sense that there's people that consider themselves gatekeepers of what it is to be Salvadoran when we know that it looks different and takes different shapes and forms.
No, that's a great question. That's something I 100% want to build off. First and foremost, I've definitely kept my eyes super open, especially on social media platforms. I've seen many comments saying that, we should stop bringing in a lot of American Salvadoran, guys who are born abroad in the U.S. They want to take in a lot more locals. And, without a doubt, I respect people's opinions. I'm never here to change somebody else's mind. But at the end of the day, if I were to have anything to say to those people, it's truly every guy who's there is ready to give their 120% for the badge for blue and white. It's as simple as that. They may be born abroad. They may have 3 nationalities, 3 nationality backgrounds. They may, there's so many different factors that come into play. But at the end of the day, when everyone's on the pitch together, they all fight blue and white. They give it all their 120%. And that's just simply the truth. And, sometimes it's hard to manage because I've definitely read some things where it's like, oh, we shouldn't be bringing in these guys. And, I haven't actually personally read anything directly to me. And I think that's something I'm, very thankful for. But I also keep in mind that I got to be prepared for it too as well. I never know when I'm going to see that message saying that, hey, Mariona does not deserve to be here. And, I think I'm ready for that. So, but I have seen many of my other U20, fellow teammates who were born in the U.S. who have been tackled at saying, hey, they shouldn't be here. Let's bring in more guys from locals. But, I have nothing to tell them, but, you're here to play soccer. You're not here to listen to to social media, first and foremost. You can always earn their respect back truly by performing well. Because the first thing we're there to do is play soccer and represent the country with our whole heart. That's literally simply it. And if you can do that, you'll get them on your side. And I truly believe that, I don't think where you're born defines how well you'll play and how well you're going to represent the country. As simple as that. I assure you, like I said, every single one of those guys who are there is giving their whole heart, for the blue and white. So.
For sure, man. I respect that. And it is something that, will be interesting to see how a lot of the younger guys navigate because it hasn't been that huge part of a conversation until most recently. I mean, Uro's attested to the process of trying to bring or scout players born abroad and how it was like drops here and there. But it seems like as of recent, with him being named officially a scout, with the coaching staff changes that occurred, everything's aligned where there's been more of like a streamline of players being found abroad. And it will be interesting to see how you guys handle it moving forward, because I do think, like you said, you can't have one sort of definition to it, because at the end of the day, when you put that kit on, and I think it's been proven just through the conversation of how excited you are to wear that crest, you know, I think it's pretty evident. You're not going to get guys that are just going to be like blah and throw it on, you know. But I think we don't want to take more of your time. Will, do you have any more questions?
No, just to finalize, I think what matters, I mean, Javier just put it together very nicely in words, but at the end of the day, what matters is how your teammates treat you, what the environment is like, how well you're treated, how well the team bonds, regardless of who you are, background, whether you speak Spanish or not. You know, what matters is how your teammates treat you. And I think that's going to show on the field. There's always going to be negative people, especially now with social media. Everyone feels like they have the right to say whatever they want. And it's great. I mean, there's freedom, right? But, you know,
it's part of the sport now. It's simply part of the sport now. Yeah.
It's part of the sport. Some people are going to use it to motivate others and be positive. And some other people are just going to try to be negative, and that's going to be the case. So, for players like you, you know, on the younger side, it's important to be mentally prepared, psychologically prepared for that, and I think you are. And the most important thing, if you perform, they won't have anything to say. So I think you're doing great. I'm looking forward to seeing more of you. What I saw against, you know, the games against Guatemala, it was nice, you know, very, very promising. So hopefully you're in that final roster.
I really hope so, man. Yeah, that's the goal. That's the plan.
What move are you thinking of busting out? Are you going to go more bachata status? Or
hey, I can't say too much. You guys are going to have to wait on it. I'm sorry. You guys are going to have to wait on it. You guys are going to have to see it.
If you do a Latol de Lote dance, then that's going to be like, that's it, you know?
Yeah, we'll send you the YouTube link. If you do the Latol de Lote, like, they're going to make a statue of you in El Salvador. Seriously. Like,
you gotta
right
send
when
me
you
that
get
then.
out of the airport.
You got to send me that then. Most definitely. I'm going to have to pop that out then. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Cool, man. No, I appreciate it. Really.
So that's it, everyone. What a great conversation with Javier Mariona. Like I said, I've been following him for 10 years.
Since he was 7, man.
Since he was 7. And honestly, I mean, there's a few exceptions of players that I have tried to reach out in one way or another, and I just can't. He was one of them. But talking to him is like, it leaves you with a very positive vibe, because he projects that energy. You know, I'm not just saying, you know, like, because he's saying wonderful things about El Salvador, but he just feels like a very genuine, positive guy who's enjoying, and he's committed to being part of La Selecta for now and long term. And to me, I mean, I get really excited, and part of it is because of all the negativity that's been around lately about they don't feel the colors and
the gatekeeping.
And so didn't even take the flag to celebrate the championship. He doesn't feel it. He's not a true Salvadorian, and you know, it's like, no, you just can't say those things. You really don't know what goes on inside of people, how they relate to a country, and how they express those emotions. It's different for everyone. And just having someone like Javier, who's 3 nationalities. He was born in the US, but he has a Filipino side from his mother's side, and then a Salvadorian side from his father's side, and how he relates and respects all 3 countries, but how excited and grateful and how pumped he is about having this opportunity to play for La Selecta. I mean, if you have any doubts, I mean, just rewatch the interview and give it a thumbs up.
And like and subscribe and share with your family and friends. Now, I think what's admirable is you just see the manifestation of just, tradition, culture, how that gets passed along one way or another. And we're talking to a kid that was in El Salvador for his first time, a couple months ago, and just how that experience just had a huge impact on him. And that's the beauty of youth, ladies and gentlemen, of being able to have experiences like that. It kind of reminded me of, my experience connecting with the culture growing up, despite living in the US, having time spent in El Salvador with family, playing soccer in the streets, falling in love with the culture, with our people. And it's awesome just to hear someone else go through that experience. So I think we're going to leave it on that note. I think this, more than anything, I kind of wanted to interview someone like Javier, as Ul was mentioning, because we were in the midst of kind of I guess a good couple of weeks where there's been a lot of negativity being thrown out in terms of who belongs in Azul or not. And I think more than anything, what's going to be prevalent is, do you have that level? Are you at that level to compete? Are you sound of mind and body enough to compete at an elite level that is, international football? And I think it should be irrelevant, where you come from, but what is going to have a huge impact is your formation. And as Jerson mentioned when we talked to him earlier, it's kids that are of Javi's age and younger coming out of the States that are finally getting this, I'd say, almost holistic formation in terms of those that are identified to go pro in a way that he mentioned Roldan didn't even get, So I think we're going to be seeing this elevation and quality of players born abroad. And you just hope that somehow that can be mirrored locally. It would be a dream to me to see the league in El Salvador starting to have academies, reserves, owning their own stadiums, being able to stay on budget and not have to hear the horror stories of players going weeks or months on end without receiving salaries, and just all the lack of professionality that soccer has in El Salvador as an industry. And it would be a dream to see that elevated at some point. But I think the main focus, as we've mentioned throughout, is increasing that player pool. And it will be interesting to see these younger generations that have had access to a different type of development and seeing what they can bring to El Salvador, navigating through like predatory calls by the US or the country of origin, because that's something that I think we're going to start seeing, even though Berhalter's mentioned that that's not in his plans or that's not his modus operandi. I think we're going to start seeing more and more of like, we're going to call this guy up so you don't get him, that type of deal. And we're starting to see players getting courted by multiple federations, which is something that is something new for Salvadoran soccer, such as in the case of Nathan Ordaz. And it's new waters to navigate. But I think the importance of being able to talk to someone like Javi is just seeing how the tradition, the culture, and his family played such a role in his development as a player, of where he wants to be, the goals that he has, and that torch that he wants to carry from, his grandfather, Salvador Mariona. So I think to close out, we can't be gatekeeping, who's Salvadoran, who's not. I think the main decision has to be whether you're at that level. Can you handle it? And hearing stories of kids taking that risk, taking that big jump of going to an unknown space, and not because they chose to, it's at some point our families had to get the hell out for whatever reason or another, whether economic or political, things just didn't work out. But I think it's beautiful that we're able to reach back and reconnect with the homeland, with the culture in one way or another. And it's awesome seeing it come to fruition, even if it's through soccer, even if it's something as the youth teams. But I'm happy for the Marionas to see that their is making that connection with the homeland. So congrats to them, and hopefully we get to hear more from him on his career. Ooh, anything else you want to share before we close on out?
Just something a little bit out of context when you were talking about the level of professionalism that this guys can bring to El Salvador, and hoping that something can be done over there to improve the conditions for the players. And I just went back to that training at the Oakland Roots training grounds. Honestly, I wasn't the only one, but there was a moment in which I had to touch the grass because it was so perfect that for a moment I thought, is this artificial or what? It was beautiful. And we're talking about a USL Championship team, a new franchise in the USL Championship. And that field, that training ground has, probably, I'm sure they are better in the world, but that's top in terms of the quality of the pitch and what the players need to train and perform. I mean, that's top notch.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that because I honestly think that the Roots training facility was way better than the Quakes. Granted, the Quakes field is like just one field less than a half a block away from the actual stadium, but it feels like it's some random, almost like a high school field, except the pitch is nice, but it's literally just the field and then tarp and a fence that's tarped off so you can't see anything. But at the Roots Stadium, you get there, it's still a small club up and coming. The facilities are small, but you get there. Once that gate opens, the pitch is immaculate. They have their basically a gym or like a building right next to the pitch so players can work out. I imagine there's a locker room. The Quakes didn't have any of that. They have to walk from their locker room in the stadium across a parking lot or something to practice. And here's a facility that's just designated just solely for training with the Oakland Roots. So props to them. I really was impressed by that.
And that tells you a lot about the development here. And it tells you a lot about the potential for the dual national players that are going through the system here. I mean, I understand a lot of people are against it, but guys, I mean, this 17-year-old like Javi is training at top level, top notch facilities. Whether that's going to transfer over there when the fields are poor condition, we don't know, but it plays a role. Yes, there's talent. The people always argue about the natural talent, but that talent needs to be polished.
Yeah, and get minutes. And I think that's something like what this league provides is, before, I guess like the main case would be Freddie Adu at 14. Boom, they throw him into the top flight and the rest is history, right? But now you're seeing a different approach where a kid that's 17, still at a high school age, and here he is being able to get minutes in a professional league on professional pitches, training staff taking care of him, as he mentioned, with this injury, and then on top having the opportunity to compete internationally. And I think, like I mentioned, this is the first generation, and we got this info from Jerson in his opinion, that is getting this type of development from point A to point B, from start to finish, in a way that hasn't been accessible to most players that are developed in the US. Like, you look at the better MLS players right now, it's not that they started from scratch, but they did not have that development that you see in better, bigger leagues. And you're starting to see that with this new generation. And I think there's nothing better than calling them up. It does not hurt to call these kids up. And you're going to have cases like Javier that they feel the colors. Maybe you're going to have cases that don't feel it, that they're not not down, or for whatever reason they have other opportunities that they'd rather pursue, so be it. I mean, the main thing is finding those pieces where you can, especially if they're getting a development that we haven't seen in the US, you know, and even less in El Salvador, to, you know, and to a certain extent. But in any case, that's our, you know, putting an experience of being Salvadoran, Filipino, and American under a magnifying glass, and just in this particular case, and getting a sense of what that has been like for Javi Mariona. So thanks again for listening to the Corner Blue. I'm Andres Rico. This is Hugo Alvarado right here next to me, except he's in LA. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share this. Maybe you can use this on like some note cards if you ever have another debate with your family at the next dinner or get together, carne asada or pupusa domingo day, whatever it is. I think if they see the vibe that this kid has, the joy that this kid was able to emote and share of what it's been, you know, representing those colors, maybe they'll change. Just, but if they had a couple, you know, good luck arguing with them. But in any case, that's it for this episode. We thank you again for checking us out, and we'll be back sometime soon. All right, have a good one.